A novel for young readers is one in which a young person solves his own problem, finds her own way.
Richard Wayne Peck is an American novelist mostly famous for young adult literature. He was born and raised on April 10, 1934 by his parents, Virginia and Wayne, in Decatur, Illinois. In 1956, he graduated from DePaul University in Greencastle, Indiana, with a bachelor's degree in English. After college, he was drafted in the United States Army during the period of the Korean War. He became a chaplain's assistant and spent 2 years serving in Stuttgart, Germany. After his service in the U.S. Army, he earned a master's degree at Southern Illinois University in 2003. Using his degree, he taught junior and high school English in Illinois and New York City. While teaching at the schools, he began writing for newspapers and magazines such as the New York Times, Saturday Review of Literature, the Chicago Tribune, and many others. Richard Peck loved his students, but he felt as if though he needed to reach them in a different way. He knew so much about them and the things they faced in life. Through students' ideas and Paul Zindel, one of his biggest influencers, Richard Peck decided to leave teaching in 1971 and devote his time to writing full-time. Although he was not much into modern technology, Peck types all his novels in an old-fashioned typewriter. Computers, in his opinion, were too complicated to work with. The students he taught in school were a big influence in his life to begin writing as a career for young adult literature. Richard Peck stated in a speech published in Arkansas libraries that students taught him that a novel must entertain first before it can be anything else. There is no such thing as a great reading level. A young person's reading level and attention span will rise and fall according to his degree of interest. If you do not have a happy ending for the young, you had better do some fast talking. That same year, Richard Peck wrote his first fiction novel at the age of 37, Don't Look and It Won't Hurt. His friends Dr. Richard and Jean Hughes, owners of a house for single mothers in Evanston, Illinois, inspired him to write this book. This novel is about a young teenager, Carol Patterson, the middle sister in her family who faces hardship and is stuck between a young juvenile life and a roving mother to her sisters. Her father leaves the family, mother works evenings to support the family, and older sister gets pregnant by a man who is later sentenced for drugs. Alone and unwilling to support and care for a baby, Carol's sister Ellen struggles as a young single mother and is sent to a facility in Chicago for unwed mothers. Carol is pressured into taking the roving mother to her sisters and keeping their lives together. With insufficient money to be able to visit Ellen in Chicago, Carol decides to go to their father for help with money. In 1991, Don't Look and It Won't Hurt was made into a movie, Gas, Food, Laundry. Richard Peck signed as a temporary lecturer for around-the-world cruises, in which took most of his inspiration into writing books for young adult literature. He traveled, taught, and met people who at times took part in his books. He focuses on one novel at a time and never starts novels unless a young reader pushes him to. One of Rich Peck's quotes for young writers was, "Young people who want to become writers need to get to know people who do not conform to the group. They need to get to know people from around the world that don't always relate to their problems. Those people can become good inspirations into writing because not only are they different, but they might or might not share things in common." Richard Peck writes in all types of genres, from horror to mystery, occult, social commentary, social issues, historical, and realism. Many of his books are developed through a theme in which a young adult adopts an adult role and the responsibilities that come with it. They step away from their youth life to achieve independence. Richard Peck provides good characterization through description and conversation. He believes you will never begin to grow up until you declare your independence from your peers. Another one of Richard Peck's young adult literature novels was in 1976, Are You in the House Alone? This novel relates to social issues young adults face growing up. It is about a young high school girl who feels terrified when she constantly receives harassing, threatening letters and phone calls. She is alone and hopeless to find herself in a position where no one believes her disposition after being raped by a boy she knew. This injustice effect haunts her and she becomes isolated from the world. Richard Peck received an Edgar Allan Poe Award for Best Juvenile Novel, Are You in the House Alone? And was made into a movie as well in 1977. Most of Richard Peck's young adult novels were based on achieving independence and situations that young readers relate to. If it is not appealing to his readers, then readers will not find the novel interesting to read further. One of Richard Peck's horror novels was that of Ghost I Have Been in 1977, one of his Blossom Cult series. It is a combination of historical and comical events. Ghost I Have Been is about a young 14-year-old girl, Blossom Cope, who is considered a troublemaker and different from others. She has psychic powers and interacts with a young ghost-like boy who drowns in Arctic due to the collapse of the Titanic ship. The young boy was left alone from his parents, and Blossom is entitled to make a turning point in history and rescue the boy. She uses her telepathic powers to travel into the Titanic and return him back home. Ghost I Have Been did not receive any awards, but it was critiqued to be a highly recommended novel for young adults. Richard Peck wrote 2 novels in which were honored and awarded by Newbery. A Long Way from Chicago was published in 1998 and received a National Book Award finalist for Newbery Honors a year after. This comedic novel is about Joe, also known as Joey as a child, reminiscing the past when he and his sister traveled every summer to visit their grandmother in a small town of Illinois during the period of the Great Depression. The two were from a big city in Chicago and not very excited to spend a week with Grandma, who in fact was not an ordinary grandmother. Grandma Duell had a position of a shotgun and was not afraid of anything. She is a strong, wise, and independent woman who let nothing get in her way. She did unexpected things in which enlightened her grandkids into looking forward to visiting their adventures with her every summer. This novel is divided into 8 short stories, one for each summer Joey and his sister Mary Alice visit Grandma. A Long Way from Chicago took place in 1929 through 1942, in which faced the Great Depression, rural life in Illinois, gangs in Chicago, the economy, relationships, and many more. Richard Peck's biggest success was the award-winning Newbery novel, A Year Down Yonder in 2000, which received a medal a year later. This historical and realism young adult literature is related to the same characters, Joey and Mary Alice, from the novel A Long Way from Chicago. Joey was a narrator in A Long Way from Chicago, but in this novel, their father loses his job and the family are forced to leave their apartment and stay in a housekeeping room that fits 2 people. Joey is sent to the civilian conservation camp, and Mary Alice goes off to live with her grandmother, Dowell, in Illinois until the family is financially stable. Leaving her city life and school friends, Mary Alice had to stay with Grandma for a while and attend the small town school. Things were not too comfortable for Mary Alice as the new girl in town, but Grandma Dowell always made sure that every time someone bullied her granddaughter around, a lesson needed to be taught. Jealousy, envy, and love-to-love relationships take a lot of part in Mary Alice's life in Illinois and caused her to hesitate in returning back to Chicago. Other awards Richard Peck received were 1974 Edgar Allan Poe Award nominee for Best Juvenile Novel, Dreamland Lake, 1990 Margaret A. Awards Award, 1990 Allen Award, 1991 University of Southern Mississippi Medallion, 2001 National Humanities Medal, 2004 Jeremiah Ludington Memorial Award, and 2005 Allen Award. Richard Peck has written over 30 novels and believes the book should be entertaining and eye-catching to his young readers.